I couldn't hardly sleep because it was night, and I couldn't hardly sleep because it was so close and it was so loud, like you say. The thunder was so loud. Incredible.
I don't know where the fire was, but the people went back to their house. The fire had burned everything, their house, the whole lot, everything was gone. 2 horses were standing in the pasture on the only little bit of green grass that wasn't burnt. All the way around.
Yes,
2
you
horses
mean
were
Yarnell?
standing,
You mean when Yarnell heard?
just recently. I don't know where the fire was.
Oh, that, yeah.
And the horses, the horses, there's 2 horses in the pasture, just this green bit. Like I said,
Well, they've been saying their prayers.
All right. Okay.
I'm reading all this all the time. Israel's off, Israel's on, Israel bad, Israel's good, Israel's off, Israel on. Are they still going through that?
Yeah. So this is just
You know,
this.
look at how these people live over there. I mean, oh my gosh. They live in bunkers. The kids play underground. I mean, they're still being really, really punished.
You're talking about today.
Yes.
No.
I mean, I look at how they live today. I mean, that's not living. That's terrible.
You're talking about in Gaza.
No, I'm talking about they're being bombed right now in shells, and they're still being bombed. They go running and get in shelters and stuff right now, today.
Yeah.
How they live.
Right.
So you're thinking, they must still be being punished or something, because you're reading this how they got on the good side.
Well, I think
they got a good king, and then they live good.
Sure. The big mistake that people make often is trying to equate national Israel today with biblical Israel that you read in the Bible. Biblical Israel ended at the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. So what is today that you see is basically just a standard nation that grew up. Most of the people, most of the Jews, archaeologists did a study and tests. Most of the Jews that are there that call themselves Jews, and Paul even said there are some who call themselves Jews that aren't, but most of the Jews that are there today have 50% Canaanite DNA. They discovered this just recently. So the Canaanites weren't completely destroyed. The Canaanites assimilated into the camp of Israel. So what?
They weren't paying attention to God's orders.
Right.
About eradicating them.
Right.
And they started marrying into them and taking them as wives and whatever.
Sure, the intermarrying and everything else, which God told them not to do. So today, when you look back at the creation of today's Israel back in 1948, May 14th, so there was a lot of money and politics behind the creation of the state of Israel for today. And so even though people say that they're Jews today and we're supposed to support Israel today, we're not. The only thing we're supposed to do is pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's what the Bible tells us to do. So that's what we do.
Those people, I mean, the way they've got to live. I mean, there's no way to live. There's children.
No, but it's no different in any other country. If you go to Sudan, if you go to Africa, I mean, look at Nigeria. There's Christians being persecuted and killed left and right, and they have to hide underground. They have to go and hide places just to live life and eat and do what we do, what we would take for granted.
I mean, Christians in Iran.
I think about it, it's like everybody's against the Jews. I mean, those poor people,
But they're not full Jews. They're not ethnic Jews, and that's
Is there any real Jews left in the world?
Yes, but the ethnic Jews, a lot of the ethnic Jews that are in the world today, some of them are like the ultra Orthodox Jews, and they live in other countries, and they won't go to Israel because they say, unless the Messiah brings you back, you don't go. Unless the Messiah brings you back. That was the whole idea. And so the nation that's created today is a whole mix of different type of people who call themselves Jews. And they're Israeli. And the difference is that they're Israeli, they're not Israelites. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference, and they're not full-blooded ethnic Jews. There are full-blooded ethnic Jews that live there. But yeah, it's like living in another country. It's like going to England or going somewhere else and just living there.
Well, God scattered them.
Yeah.
When Babylon came in,
Sure.
they were taken away.
Mm-hmm.
He left only a small remnant of ethnic Jews in order for prophecy of Jesus coming.
Yeah.
He had to keep that line of David alive.
I mean, you look at King Herod during the time of Christ. King Herod wasn't a full-blooded Jew. He was Syrian. He was half Syrian and half Jew.
Yeah.
And
Well, you look at most of the kings, their mothers were something other than Jewish.
right.
And that's why they weren't following the Lord anyhow.
But what most of these Christian Zionists miss is that by the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, that put an end to the old covenant. And now there's a new covenant. That's why Paul said there's a new covenant. So that put an end to the old covenant in 70 AD. That's just milk. Oh, yeah. I don't know anybody who drinks half and half, but go ahead. You can put it in.
I can get the other, it's just it didn't have any milk or cream.
Yeah.
Half and half, it's just not flavored.
It just doesn't,
It's just
it's
like
not
milk.
sweet.
Half and half is good in coffee.
But, I can get the other.
Oh, that's okay.
God left when the temple was destroyed, didn't he?
Well,
Didn't he say, I'm done with you,
God left long before the temple was destroyed. And that's the whole purpose of Ezekiel. When you read Ezekiel and you read the first few chapters of Ezekiel, you'll see the wheels within the wheels and God sitting on a platform. And he's basically showing them a picture saying, I'm out of here. You won't listen to me. You won't obey me. And we actually read it today. It should have been in today's reading. If you don't follow God, if you abandon God, he's going to abandon you. And that's what he did. And that's what he was prophesying in Ezekiel. Ezekiel was during the time of the Babylonian exile. So he was telling them, look, you abandoned me, I'm going to abandon you. And so I'm leaving. And that's what the whole vision of the wheels within the wheels.
And the plague that was going on under the siege.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just, they were, people were cannibals. They
Yeah.
were eating the babies and whatever, because there was no food, there was no water, there was nothing.
And you're talking about 70 AD?
I'm talking.
Because that happened in 70 AD.
Yeah.
The same thing happened. They were surrounded by the Roman army and they turned to cannibalism and just eating anything they can. And just like in what we read earlier in the Old Testament, where they, would eat their babies. And it's.
Well, every time they abandoned God, usually he sent a plague.
Mm-hmm.
And it would get so bad that they would have to come back and pray. And that was part of it is praying in the temple. You've got to pray to him, no matter where you are, you've got to face, where the temple supposedly is and was.
Yeah.
And pray with all your heart for salvation, otherwise it's not going to come.
And, it's, so it's interesting, when we see this today and we see how the nation of Israel is today, they're clinging to what the ancient Israelites believed. They're trying to say, oh, that's us, but it isn't, and ancient ethnic Israel they're darker skinned. They look a lot like the Jordanians because Jordanians are their brothers by blood. So they look Middle Eastern, and but when you see a lot of Jews today in Israel, they don't look Middle Eastern. They look German, and I think that I forgot what it's called, but it's a whole different tribe of people, and they may have Jewish blood in them, but they're not full-blooded Jews.
It sounded like that when what was it, Moses, that's how he ended up being a child of the king, was because he was very fair skinned. He was very light skinned or very fair skinned or something in that line. When they put him in the ark, that's how he kind of passed for the Egyptians.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that today, and so yeah, it's no way to go back to what Katie was saying. It's no way for anybody to live. Nobody should have to live in a bunker and hide in a bunker, but that's happening all over the world. That's happening everywhere, and it's happening to Christians everywhere, not just to Jews. The Jews and the Christians, the true Christians, have always been persecuted. They've always been throughout history. We can go back all the way even to the start of the Spanish Inquisition, which was the 14th century. And who did they go after? Who did the Catholic Church go after? They went after the true Christians and the Jews. And they wanted them to convert to Catholicism. So they tortured them horribly and killed them. And yeah, it's horrible. But that's been happening for a long time. That's why I say we live in the time of the Great Tribulation, but so did they. And the reason why it's great is because it started in the first century and it's been continuing ever since. And
Christ left, all talking about you thinking that people were going through the tribulation with him.
Right. So did John. John said the same thing. So, yeah, it's a horrible way to live. We are very blessed.
I think that's, yeah,
Too much so sometimes.
you think of how they would. Another thing that really gets me is not just this one, but all the way through the gold and the jewels and the treasures just were apparently so they found
Tons.
thousands of tons of gold.
Right.
Like, so
Carry out several
apparently
times.
that was already important way back when. You didn't really realize gold went back to day one of being
Oh, yeah.
important.
Gold and technology. They had an understanding of physics that we don't. And that's why they could build these large structures and move these giant stones that weigh tons to build the temple in Jerusalem. If you ever see videos of the temple in Jerusalem underground, you'll see stones from Solomon's time that are as long as, just a little bit longer than this building is wide, same height, and thickness is about maybe from that corner to the end of the bookshelf. They were able to move those stones, and so, yeah,
But the gold and the jewels and how they talk about just so much of it. It was just incredible. And
Right.
then the shields, they have gold shields.
right.
And bronze shields and just, I can see, that gold.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, Solomon did a lot of,
what happened to all that gold?
it all got pillaged by the
Well, it's
Assyrians.
probably somewhere.
It got pillaged by the Assyrians and the Babylonians.
Yeah, well, it's still somewhere, isn't it?
Maybe,
I mean-
unless they melted it down and made idols out of it or something. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's still,
It's somewhere in the earth, yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere still, all this, lots of stuff like that.
Yep.
Incredible.
They even found batteries. They assumed maybe they were using them for electroplating, but they really don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that when Solomon brought the Ark of the Covenant back and placed it in the temple of his that there was nothing hidden there except at the 2 stone tablets
Mhm.
of Moses. What happened to the manna in the staff?
I don't know. Doesn't say.
I'm sorry, I couldn't
It
hear
just
you.
says that basically, as he put it, and where the Lord made a covenant with his people of Israel. It was the tablets,
Mhm.
the 10 Commandments were basically the covenant we needed. That was the.
I think we read in Kings that it actually mentions all the items that were in there, but yeah, I don't know. You know, it's like the book of the law. Where was that?
Yeah, I find it interesting though, that it says that,
Mhm.
it makes that statement that, hey, the only thing left in the ark, of the covenant was the 2 stone tablets.
Right.
That was it. And I thought it was interesting that it made
That distinction.
that statement.
Yeah, and then what's interesting is during the time of the Babylonian captivity with Jeremiah, the Ark of the Covenant disappeared. Some legends say that Jeremiah hid it in a cave. Others say that it might have been taken with the other pillage stuff, but I think they might have taken the Ark and moved it.
I don't think the ark wasn't, until maybe pillage or something, it was never opened, was it? They put the
Mm-mm.
things in it, and it was just stayed. It was just there.
Yeah, you'd think, but we don't know.
Best I understood.
Nobody knows because nobody knows where the Ark is. Well, they say they do. They say they do, but I don't know if that's true. So by the time Jesus walked the earth, in the Holy of Holies, behind the curtain, there was nothing. That's one of the reasons why the high priest would have to tie a rope around his leg to go in there, because if he died, if God's presence showed up, which I don't think it did, they would have to pull him out. Jesus, basically, when Jesus came into the earth, the ark wasn't there because the ark represented his presence, right? And so now Jesus is in the earth because Jesus is God. The presence of God is walking the earth now. So there's no need for an ark in there. They didn't understand that. People would go and sacrifice animals to nothing because the presence of God wasn't there like it used to be in Solomon's day. So by the time Jesus walked the earth, he was standing right there among them, and they didn't realize it.
That's why he constantly called them hypocrites and
Mhm.
stealing. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that there were several things that happened when Jesus was crucified. And one of them, and I didn't realize it until I read it the other day, was the darkness that fell between noon and 3, lasted for 3 hours, which ties into the darkness that fell upon Egypt
Mhm.
for 3 days.
Mhm.
And then it followed by Egypt's firstborn dying, followed by God's firstborn dying, which was Jesus.
Mhm.
There were a whole lot of other things that happened, but supposedly the dead were raised from the tombs.
Mhm.
Did they walk the streets? And what happened to them?
That's what it says. It says they walked the streets. I think it was 500 of the Old Testament saints walked the streets. And how do you know that's them? And I don't know what happened to them. I don't know where they went. I just know that they were probably part of the captivity that Jesus led captive when he led captivity captive. And he took everybody up to, not, I want to say up, it's not geographically located, but it's when he took everyone into God's presence. I think that's where they went. I don't know. It doesn't say. We're left to speculate. And so we don't know what really happened to those.
That cloudy glass.
Yep.
And so many things happened when Jesus died. There was the darkness, the thunder, the earth splitting open with the final of the curtain that the horrible soul is tearing in half.
Mhm.
And then the final one was the Roman soldier
Mhm.
actually saying that they had killed an innocent, which, again, he had a heart a hardened heart, and he was,
Yeah, well, his exact words were, "Truly, this was the Son of God,"
Yeah.
and so I think it changed his heart and what he saw, what was taking place. Now, historically, there are a number of resources that actually talk about the darkness in Jerusalem that covered the land. One of them is Tacitus. He was a Roman historian. He wasn't a believer. He was just chronicling everything. Another one was Josephus. One mentions the earthquake, one mentions the darkness. So you kind of get historical evidence that all this stuff happened. Right. It's not just the Bible.
Yeah, that was one question somebody brought up about a prophet that was put in a cistern. And then
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Oh, that's still further out?
Yeah, I think it's further ahead.
Biblical, or 'cause I just-
It's further ahead. So we'll get there, but we're just not there yet. Who else? What else? You know, Katie mentioned something earlier. She said, you know, it's unbelievable. Just, you know, they're good, they're bad. They're good, they're bad. You know, you got Israel following God, then all of a sudden they turn to idols, and how quickly they turn. And it's like when King Asa took over in today's reading. You know, they had peace for 10 years. Why? Because he destroyed the pillars of Asherah, the pillars. And that word pillars actually means a steeple. So what they would do is they would build these steeples on the ground that would go up, and like totem poles. And so
That wasn't the first time. I mean, it's been all the way through. So
yes,
what do these steeples mean to them? I mean, what?
it's a physical object that they can go worship and sacrifice
Maybe
to.
the cross or something, but.
It's kind of like the
I
cross,
look
yeah.
at the steeple like, you know, the churches around, and I'm like, yeah, what's so important? Why did they do that so much through time?
It's the same thing.
And you think of it,
I've been saying that for years.
they're building something, they're creating something that they're worshiping.
Right.
So basically, they're worshiping their own creation, or maybe you could say they're worshiping themselves because they're the ones that created it.
And that's one of the reasons we don't have a cross in here.
We do on the back,
In the where?
on the roof.
Well, you can call that a
Drain-
cross.
the-
Yeah.
The drain pipe.
Yeah, it's a drain pipe, but I was going to put a TV antenna on there.
Yeah, the PVC pipe.
But it's kind of the same thing, you know, because when you have something like that, people will worship it.
And maybe they did that. You wonder why they chose that.
I don't know.
Well,
It was easy to make, I guess.
well, and it's easy, it's very, you can see it a long way. Maybe they were trying to get everybody's attention, like these churches with these big, beautiful steeples.
Yeah, well, it's
They look cool.
in the Old Testament, they would build these pillars on the high places, on the high hills, so that they can be seen. It's kind of like now when you look up on the mountain, you can see all those TV antennas and radio antennas, and it's kind of the same thing. If they would build a pillar there, you'd be able to see it and say, oh, there's a pillar there. We're supposed to go up there and worship. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And I consider, you know, if I go on a hike in the mountains somewhere, not here, but like in Colorado, I'll find stacks of stone.
People like to do that.
Yeah, or they pull them out of the river and they interrupt the ecosystem in order to do that, because you know there's.
I thought that was hippie, like something hippie.
It is, and it still is, and so they make these pillars, and I saw a video the other day where this guy he went by a riverbed, and there were like all these people would walk by, and they'd make these little pillars of stone, and he would go by and knock them all down because they were interrupting the ecosystem that was there. And a lot of the creatures that live under the rocks now don't have a place to be safe, and that's going to interrupt the flow.
I find that even around here, people like to stack things up.
Yeah. If I see them, I'll knock them down because it's like, don't do that.
Down here at the bar that burns down going up the hill, just before you go up the hill,
Hmm.
the owner there likes to put those things up. And if you knock them over, he throws a fit.
Well, I'm not going to go on somebody's property and knock them over.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, I leave their own personal property alone, but
So I put them back, but, yeah,
So
people
the-
just like to do that.
So the Indians with the totem pole.
Mhm.
kind of
Same
the
thing.
Same thing.
same thing, yeah. Yep,
But spiritually, they have heads and bases and stuff that all. mean
Yeah,
something to them.
yeah. Well, and the Indians today, they still like to channel their spirit guide,
Yeah.
their spirit animal. And so they still do all that stuff. And they would often do it while taking peyote, which is a drug, a hallucinatory drug. And so they would take that and have hallucinations, and then they would say, "Oh, there's this animal came to me. That's my spirit animal."
Yeah.
And so they still do that. Dream catchers. You've seen dream catchers?
Oh,
Yeah, dream catchers are the same way. Those little round thing made out of yarn.
They'll catch the bad dreams.
Yeah, yeah. That's superstition. That's witchcraft.
My son's buddy that worked with him, Ben, for a long time,
Mhm.
Indian, he made me many, many dream catchers. He kept making, he was, how they're kind of crafty,
Hmm.
the people, turquoise and stuff. And he kept making me all these dream catchers. And, well, I think Tatum asked for one. He made a comment about it. No, those are cool. So he started making them. And then, well, I'm like, what am I going to do with all these dream catchers?
And see, that's what people do. Is they've turned something that was for idol worship, and they turned it into a craft, and they start making crafts out of idol worship stuff.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's the other way around.
very talented. I mean,
Oh yeah, some of them are really good. I've seen some that are really take up the whole wall.
Yeah, I get feathers and beads and
Sure. Yeah,
twine.
and they look real decorative and everything like that, but they don't even realize what they're doing.
He was very talented at it.
Yeah. But see, that's the same thing as
All
this.
dream catchers about.
That's the same thing as the steeples on a church. When you see those pointy steeples, it's the same kind of thing. It's it's why are you doing that?
I wondered if maybe the reason they did it was the same reason why they did masterful, is because you can see it from a distance. So you know where the church is,
Sure.
you can see it from far away,
Hmm.
so you know, oh, okay, there's a church there.
Some of
Rather
it
than
was,
having it look like an ordinary building.
Yeah.
some of it started out as decorations, like, what was it, they decorated inside of the temple with, the wings touched. They covered, they're huge, and, sometimes it goes the other way around. Art that was created, to look like something or other. Later, people see that and then they worship that.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's created as art, then get worshipped, and others it's created as an idol and worship.
If you really want to see something like that today, just go to a Catholic church.
Oh, yeah.
They'll go to a statue and they'll kiss the feet.
All these
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
They have so much
Saints.
gaudy stuff in there. It's unbelievable.
We
Yeah.
understand this was the first machine where you put the coin in, get something out.
Hmm.
The first thing they made was where you put the coins in, got holy water.
So back in the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church was notorious for doing something called indulgences. Indulgences was a practice that they did where the priest would come to your house and he will pray for you for so much money. But if you want a stronger prayer, you give him more money. The more money you gave, the better the prayer. And they would do that. They still do that. And now today's evangelical churches do that. This is what the tithe is all about. The more money you give, the more you'll receive back, and the more you'll be blessed if you give. There's a false apostle out there today. Her name is Catherine Crick, and she calls herself an apostle, self-appointed, of course. And she tells people, you'll get healed if you give to our ministry. And sometimes it's a specific amount. Give $1,000 and God will do this.
That book I brought into you that time that, I don't know, Mary gave it to me or something, and the guy said you give up all your wealth and 25, give up everything. I don't know that he did. I mean, he said he did,
Mm-hmm.
but he probably had a secret house over here that he went home to. But to give so that, give to the poor, you're
Mhm.
going to give all this for the poor, everything, And I'm like, Where am I gonna live if I give everything,
Right. See, and they try to use that Acts 2:32 where everybody shared what they had, because they all had something in common, so they all shared. But see, they lived in poverty. They were under occupation. They were hiding out in pits and caves and things like that. So yeah, it would make sense to share what they had in common because they were all just trying to survive. They didn't have resources for food, so they would have to share. They didn't have resources for shelter, they would have to share. Right. Right. But see, that today isn't applicable today because we're not living in caves and holes in the ground and things like that.
trying to start those communes and stuff where everybody shares and everybody's equal.
hmm
I don't know if there's religion behind it.
Waco, Texas, the same way. The Branch Davidians.
They do good things, just because they're good things don't mean they're of God.
Exactly.
And then they can, they took good things.
They take one truth, they take one biblical truth and they try to make it a doctrine. And so what they do is then they get all these followers. I know a guy personally, his name is Monty Kim Miller, started a group called Concerned Christians in Denver, Colorado. And the idea was, behind it was to expose all the new age that's coming into the church, that's creeping in. He started that. Well, pretty soon it evolved into, we're the only ones who have the truth. And then that evolved into, we are part of the 144,000. And that evolved into, I'm one of the two witnesses. So we're going to go to Israel and we're going to be martyred for God, for Christ. This is how deluded they are. And they tried to get into Israel. All these people sold their homes, cashed in all their 401ks, cashed in all their whatever the money they had, gave it to Kim Miller. And I knew him personally, and I knew his wife as well, Marcia. And they gave all the money to them so it could be distributed, which it wasn't. Everybody went to Israel. Israel stopped them at the gate and said, no, you're not coming in here. So they dispersed from there. Some of them went to Greece. Some of them went someplace else. Nobody knows where he is today. But he's living high off the hog.
But it's like a lot of religions, they start out with truth.
Yeah.
Little tiny misguided, but a whole lot of good things.
Yeah.
Next thing you know.
And this all happened within a period of 7 to 10 years. Yes.
2,000 years.
Is a seer the same as a prophet?
A seer? Yes.
I saw that
Well, some of them are
seer
prophets.
for one of the kings, and I was wondering whether he was a prophet or whether he was something else.
So there was also a mention about the prophet Edo. And the prophet Edo is Iddo. You say, well, where is that writing? We don't know. There's some things that have been lost, some writings of these prophets that have been lost, and some have been integrated into what we now have as the Old Testament. But we don't know. We don't know what was integrated or what was lost.
But not all seers were prophets.
Right, because a prophet was a covenant enforcer. That's what they were there to do, was to enforce the covenant. You know, this is the covenant you made with God and God made with you, and you have to follow through with your part. And that was that's why all the prophets were killed.
One of the kings went to see the seer that he got in trouble for because he went a different God.
Yeah. And the seers back then were pretty similar to the seers we have today, which are psychics and people who say they talk to the dead and things like that, witches and things like that. They had that back then too. But there were seers that actually were given visions from God, that were actually loyal to God. But today it's just gotten out of control. And that, along with all these different factions of what people call Christianity, and all these different factions of what people call Judaism, it's all just evolved into this big bowl of messed up soup. That's what it is. And you've got all these different things. I see all the time. Okay, so you've got Jehovah's Witnesses who say they're Christians. At first they didn't, right? But now they say, but they've started their own religion now. Okay, so they're not Christian, but they say they are. You've got Hebrew roots people who want to follow the Torah. They say they're Christian, but now they're divine name followers. And so they want to reinterpret what the name of God is rather than Yahweh. They want to say it's Yehuda or Yahulah or Yabba-dabba-dua or whatever. Yeah. They've started their own religion. King James only people have started their own religion. All these people, all these groups have become their own religion. And they all say that they have the truth.
And they all started with a piece of the truth. It's just like that rifle, you just one click off.
Mm-hmm.
After time, we've had 2,000 years, but you look, a lot of these groups just started up in the last 200, well, less than 200 years. And
You look at these mesquite trees we have here, right?
yeah, they weren't here.
Yeah. Well, no, we have a nice mesquite tree. It's been trimmed up and everything like that. But after a good rain and a season, all of a sudden you start seeing these little offshoots everywhere, and they start going everywhere. Next thing you know, it's coming up out of the ground over here. And this is what it's like in the Christian sense, in what's happened to Christianity. It's been splintered so much by so many lies, deceptions, false doctrine, false this and false that, that it, and now you've got all these groups that all say they have the truth, but nobody really has the truth except
Part of the truth, and they run with
the
that
word.
only.
And it's very hard to find it too.
It is.
I mean, I've tried many, many churches from my young days trying to go the right way.
Sure.
Every church I went into, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And then I just quit going to church. I mean, I didn't, and that's the same way.
And that's what happens.
You got kicked out of Catholic, you tried several different.
Satan also wants us first to quit looking, because after all, look at all this mess up there, and I just give up looking, and I did for the longest time.
Sure.
The only reason I got stuck here is like I said, it's more the way it used to be. Well, I can talk too much. Open my mouth.
And this is why we need to stay focused on what the scripture says and test everything.
Always go back.
Always test it. Always test what you get, what you hear, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there today.
And it's so easy to get off,
Yes.
because I've tried, like I say, I tried to get deep. I was so confused, I didn't know what I was doing
Yeah.
for so long. I had to have somebody teach me, tell me, because I didn't know what I was reading. They could have told me wrong,
Right.
and I probably had a few of those in my life.
We all have.
Till I walked in here and found David.
Yeah.
It's hard to find one you can believe.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and-
Yeah. Waited on.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and end this now, because when we start doing this, then
Yeah.
there's no more attention being paid.
Okay.
So, unless you have another question.
No, just a couple of observations that,
Go ahead, share 'em.
let's see. The Proverbs, 1926, children who mistreat their father or chase away their mother are an embarrassment and a public disgrace. What do they mean by chase away their mother?
Well,
Put them in a home.
I mean,
they become antagonistic.
Home and you go on with your own life, but
You become antagonistic, that your parents will pull away, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to,
Oh, okay.
that kind of chasing away, emotionally chase away, physically chase away, but I think it's more emotional than anything, because that's the way it's interpreted in this Bible. What Proverbs is it?
1926.
Which proverb?
I can see the embarrassment in the public disgrace, like a chase away. I'm like, I'm not sure what and not the father so much, but the mother. I don't know, it was just kind of an observation.
So this is what the New King James says. It says, "He who mistreats his father and chases away his mother is a son who causes shame and brings reproach." So let's look that up in the Hebrew. How about that?
Just the wording was,
Yeah,
I mean, I.
Proverbs
saw it.
19:26.
Parents so mad they hated you and, just go,
Sure.
We can all feel that.
Sure.
But the chasing away, I just was an interesting word.
But that's where, like, where we can dig in and find out.
Right? This is why we have,
Why we're here.
this is why we're here.
You said it was Proverbs 19?
19:26. Causes to flee, that's what it means. Assaulting. So a child who assaults his mother and causes her to flee. That's what it's saying.
Okay.
Because she has to get away, otherwise he'll beat her up. That's what it's saying.
I guess people do beat their mothers up.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't experienced it yet, but, I mean, physically.
A lot of times it starts with the father or the husband
I think
hitting,
it
and
could
then
be
next thing you know, the child
mentally, too.
grows up to do the same. To the mom.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and the assault doesn't have to be physical. If it causes you to leave just to protect yourself, yeah.
For your sanity.
Right.
That's kind of where I was.
Pardon me?
A verbal assault, even if you want to.
Oh yeah, assault doesn't have to be physical to be an assault. It can be verbal assault, emotional assault, could be all that stuff. All right, if that's it, I'm going to shut this down.
Eggs. Morning.
Morning.
You gonna need eggs.
You got a lot. You got a lot.
I think it's 3 in there.
Okay, so